and yet, if you're expecting the scientific community to, give you that seal of approval that this is all real, it probably will never happen. We come to expect that. I mean, it's like anything else. I think if they don't want people to really know that something exists, there's going to be what do you call it, blowback on it. I mean, they're just not going to allow it to happen.
Well, something, guys, James and Samantha, you know what I noticed like 2 days ago on Facebook? Somebody on one of the Bigfoot groups, they showed a video of supposedly a Bigfoot, and they kept saying, well, is this real? The bad thing is, if you looked at it, you could see every time it took a big step, you could tell it was whoever was in it was a costume, because, it didn't look right. You could actually see it just looked like a costume, because it looked like the fur material was moving separate, from the structure. So, I mean, it was a dead giveaway. It was somebody wearing a good costume.
Well, there's a lot of hoaxers out there. I mean, I think that part of the program of discrediting everything to do with Bigfoot, is to cause people to actually put out evidence as false. Like fake evidence, like fake Bigfoot heads, or like I said, just a costume or something. And then push that envelope. I've actually had people actually get on Facebook and post pictures. What do you think? Do you think that's a Bigfoot? And then it turns out that people, if you accidentally say, yeah, I think it is, and then all of a sudden someone would see, I fooled you. It was a fake one. So there's an effort to discredit researchers, and so I'm very weary of, there's an element out there that's doing this. So,
well, it makes it look
Samantha,
bad.
One last question. When you had those sightings, did you happen to see any footprints or make any casts? If you did see any, to go.
I've actually had footprints that I've taken pictures of, and I had two rather good ones, and one especially in get this. This is behind the tavern, and we have fresh snow that's on the ground. And I'm walking, there's no other footprints out there. I'm walking towards the middle of the woods behind the tavern. And then as I'm coming in closer, I see this gigantic footprint. And it's about, I put my foot up next to it, but it's about it would be a size 18 shoe or something like that, I think.
Wow.
Okay? And, what's so really weird about that was there's no other footprints anywhere. So if someone tried to fake that one footprint, how in the world did they do it without doing footprints towards it and leaving in the snow?
Good point. Yeah.
I actually had that in my that picture I have available. I think I have it on my site. I'm going to give that out in a little bit, though.
Now I got to ask.
Yeah,
James, I got to ask you a question. In your area, is there a Bigfoot in your area?
Let me tell you something. Where I live, it's called the Bigfoot Triangle. The most sightings east of the Mississippi River is right here where I live. No lie. They call him the Grass Man here.
Can you describe?
In Florida?
No, Ohio. Salt Fork Lake area.
Okay.
Can you describe what they look like, James, from the descriptions that you've heard?
They're big. Actually, Matt Moneymaker, his sighting was about 30 miles north of me. His sighting he had in the 80s, who started BFRO. They're usually 10, 11 foot. They've actually seen some here that's light color, blonde color, white color. But they're usually pretty stocky, pretty wide, pretty big, and they get kind of aggressive. I don't know if they're as aggressive as the ones out there that you encountered, Gary, but they get kind of feisty.
I think has a lot to do with the area, and like where Samantha is. That there's you get a lot of hikers in there, you get a lot of people in there, campers and stuff like that. So maybe they're more used to the human. If you get out some place where there's no human contact, that's where I think the encounter could be dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, if they have young ones, who knows? They could be off where you can't see them, and like a mama bear. Yeah. I don't want to get near a mama bear with cubs. I don't want to get near a mama Bigfoot with cubs either.
No.
Yeah, they're going to be protective of their young. I mean, that's a big factor, too.
Yep.
Well, thank you, James.
Yep. Okay, well, at least now you know the Skype's working tonight.
Yeah. I wish, but it's not ringing yet. I had to look off to the side to see the number. I tell you don't want Skype 10. I tell you that.
Okay. Hey, have a great night, Samantha and Gary. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, my friend.
Thanks, James.
All right, bye.
Now, too, I depending on the location, I heard even some of in the Everglades that they are quite a bit smaller and the weight factor is quite a bit less, and they're supposed to be aggressive. But I don't know. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, there's different breeds. I don't want to say breeds. It makes it sound like an animal. I'm going to just say different race. I don't even want to use the term species. I'm going to say different, just like humans with different races. There's different races of the Bigfoot, and there's the skunk ape, Bigfoots that are down in Florida. And I do try to keep tabs of. I don't try to spend an excessive amount of time trying to look at other people's research, just enough just to know, keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on somewhere else. But I know that they're down there, and of course, every different country seems to have its different version of the Yeti in Russia or up that area, and then there's the Yowie in Australia. So they're different names, and some of them have different characteristics based on the environment they live in.
Oh, yeah. Well, Moorhead, has all these recordings, like the samurai recordings of the Bigfoot. I was talking to him where he swears up and down they can imitate noises. Like him and his friend were in the tent. They swore they heard like not a car door. Yeah, maybe it was a car door or a trunk slam. But the thing is, there was no way a car could ever been where they were at. And they would hear some real weird imitation of noises. It sounded like, something, like we'd be used to in the city.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I've talked to Ron many a time, probably a number of times. Spent some time with him and Carrie. Down south of Washington a little bit. So it was great to get to know Ron, both of them personally. And but yeah, he has had some really interesting things with the recordings, and the Samurai Chatter kind of reminds you a little bit of if you slowed it down. That's a whole study in itself. So I won't even claim to be an expert about any of that, and that drops. But because if you listen to the Samurai Chatter, it's very very quick. It's like a bunch of yelling and screaming real quick, like very fast.
Oh yeah.
And if you slowed it down, that's how they were able to determine there were language elements of, because they just slowed it down and could finally for a human to figure out it had all the elements necessary for an intelligent language,
Well, I think
and I know one other friend of mine. I won't get in his name dropping for him, or I've probably done that twice already tonight. But I have a friend who does a study of the ancient languages, and there are some words that has been deciphered from. He's been able to match up some ancient language words to some of the words, I think, from the Samurai Chatter. Which is opening a whole new door to understanding where the origin of their languages came from in the first place.
Interesting. So, that part, I hate to say it. I mean, Ron has been on, and we played a lot of his recordings on the show, and I tell you that some of it is actually eerie, and some of it scary, and some of it actually, I think they are communicating back and forth with each other.
It sounds like they're arguing.
Or something, yeah.
Very, very. You think they're angry and everything, but it's just a very emphatic type of language.
Yeah, well, I sure don't understand it. Now, in your area where your cabin is, now you besides Bigfoot, you get what other sightings of what?
Well, like I said, I got into this because I thought I was only looking for Bigfoot. And, I thought that was just the only game in town that I was going to find that was different from anything else that was considered normal. But, it didn't take but a couple of years for me to start capturing things on photos of other beings. But the problem is I was able to tell on the photos that I was seeing with Bigfoots. But then I was seeing these littler beings, and I was thinking, oh, it must be baby Bigfoots. But the problem was, it didn't make any sense, because these things were too small. You know it? And, as I later looked at some of the proportions, you look at the proportions of a baby versus an adult, I was starting to see these little beings that were more adult-ish in their structure, hanging on to Bigfoots. It's almost like they're hitchhiking a ride on them or something. And then and it wasn't until 2015, December 1st or somewhere around there, we went to an area that we now call the Fortress, because this is where we have a lot of... There's two different main areas we go to. The one that is called the Fortress snowed in right now, so I have to wait till spring to get back there. But we went back to an area where the logging road was just totally like blockades of bushes and logs, and it wasn't done by the Forest Service. It was just the Bigfoots didn't want people going back there. I took a picture, and I did capture what I thought was pretty sure it was a smaller Bigfoot. But I started questioning that, and then I went back, took another picture, and I just happened to be one day examining in between the branches, and it says, "Oh my God, there's a group of little hippies in there." So I saw the facial features of these beings. They look like little people. Okay. And I said, that can't be. But it was, to find it in such a concentration of about 8 or 9 people with hairstyles and faces, and we're not talking about pareidoia. We're not talking where, oh, I see Jesus, I see Elvis in my coffee cup, or something like that. This was very distinct patterns of faces, and not only that, clothing. And so I'm thinking, I tried to enhance that, and so I could have a better look at it on my computer and everything. And I did, it was one thing talking about Bigfoots, but I didn't, I kept that to myself for about a year.
Now, let's tell people where they can take a look at some of these pictures. Why don't you tell them where they can if they can, go on and take a look at it?
Yep. If they go to, my site is, go to planetsasquatch.wordpress.com /show. And if you go to that link, and it'll show the pictures of what I was going to talk about tonight, or some of the ones I got. So hopefully everybody can get into that. Okay. I'm just going to make sure it's on my computer so I can refer to the same thing.
Yeah, and give the address one more time.
Okay. You can go to Planet Sasquatch, just one word, .wordpress.com /show /. Okay. That'd be the easiest way to go to it. Just type that in the URL, and you should come up with the page that shows pictures. It's show slides.
Well, when you first told me about it, I was really, skeptical about what you said. Too, I started looking at the images, and then you have the images before, and then what you did to enhance it. But what you did to enhance it, you didn't do anything to really modify it. You just went through and brought out the features. And I tell you, it's rather eerie. I mean, you look at these faces, and they are definitely, there's faces there.
Yeah.
And look, one of them looks like they have glasses on.
Oh, yeah. And matter of fact, I on the show slides here, the very first one, I finally decided to call